Well, that's not good enough. We need a better open. Let's try this one.
Hey, Bills Mafia. We know there's only one topic every day. All Bills, all the time. And now Matt Bovee and Sal Capaccio are going really deep, talking Bills all year long, because it's always game day in Buffalo.
All right, much better there. I'm a little flustered this morning, Matt, because today is the first day of school of the 2024-25 school year for my 10-year-old sixth grade son. I can't believe it, Max.
That's crazy.
So, I mean, you and I were gonna do this, like record a little earlier than what we are today. And I said, hey, first day of school, I really want to make sure he gets on the bus. All right, the bus is not far from the house; it's just down the street, but bittersweet day today for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have not had to experience that yet. I could imagine the emotions. I think when I do have Ellie is old enough to go to school, I would imagine there's a sense of relief that comes with the first day of school. That's like, oh my goodness, a little bit of free time. But I don't know how I'll react. I'll probably miss her. I'll probably be a mess, which is kind of what it's been like for the first year and a half of her life. She's got me wrapped around her finger and she can't even really talk yet.
Of course. And it's still the same. It doesn't matter. The feelings never change. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I'm thinking, I can't believe my son's in sixth grade. Is he going to have a good day today? Please, please have a great day. Come back and say you like all your teachers, all those anxieties. What do you remember about first day of school for you when you were growing up?
Interesting. What do I remember about first day of school? I don't remember a ton about the first day of school. I remember.
Were you excited for the first day? Like generally, like around this time, middle school, elementary school?
Yeah, I wasn't overly excited, but I wasn't dreading it either. I think I like I'm pretty routine oriented. So I like when I get into a routine, which is why I love this part of the year too for work. So yeah, I would say I was excited. I was excited to see friends. I was excited to kind of get back into like the swing of things. I was excited for like in high school. This is when high school golf season was going on. So that was always like a ton of fun with your buddies. So yeah, like there was things that I was definitely more excited about than others.
Yeah, it was always nice seeing your friends again and seeing who got all the new gear because people want to show off their new clothes the first day of school. And then of course, I think it was always, we live in a different age now. Now everything, honestly, like Max and I did his schedule online. I just went through, oh, here's your schedule. Let's see, this teacher, this, and that's great. And it used to be you'd get something in the mail and have your schedule. You'd have to call your friends to figure out, like, are you in the same classes, or you just figured out when you get there. Now you can now you have group messages with moms, right? Yeah. Oh, are they in this class together? Are they in that class together? And you kind of know everything before you go in. The times have changed for sure, but the feelings and the emotions don't. And I can't wait for you to wait for you to experience that someday.
So my two of my best friends growing up, they lived down the street from me, just a couple houses down. And one of them was my age and the younger brother was a couple years younger than me. And my mom and his mom met following the school bus on the first day of kindergarten together. Like they did not know each other, but they both were, like super, I want to make sure that our kids get to school. Okay.
Yes,
so we both got on the school bus and they both followed the school bus there. And they like got to the parking lot and they're like, did you follow that school bus from where we live? And they were like, yeah. And then they got to meet and then eventually we became friends. And yeah, those have been two of my best friends my entire life. So it's funny how things work out.
That's a great story. You want to make sure that school bus driver's driving and stopping at all the stop signs and doing everything they're supposed to do. Well, we thank you for joining us. Listen, I mean, if there's ever, what do we always say at the end of the summer? What represents the end of summer in Buffalo? Training camp for the Bills, the Erie County Fair. Kids are back at school now. I mean, summer's over. I know calendar-wise it's not, but here we go. And we are coming at you on the very first day of the start of the NFL regular season 2024. It's the Ravens and the Chiefs getting after it on Thursday night. And then you have a game in Brazil on Friday night between the Packers and Eagles. And of course, the Buffalo Bills take on the Arizona Cardinals on Sunday afternoon, 1 p.m. in Orchard Park at Highmark Stadium. Sal Capaccio, Matt Bovee, it's always game day in Buffalo. Thanks for being with us. And we're really hoping that everybody not only stays with us all year, and we thank you for being aboard with us, but spread the word about it. You can find us wherever you podcast. It doesn't matter, on all audio platforms, especially the Odyssey app, WGR Sports Radio 550 on demand, whatever it is, you can find us anywhere. But of course, on the video side too, Sal Sports is the YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe. All right, Matt, let's get into what we heard and saw at the Buffalo Bills facility on Wednesday, the first real day of practice leading into Sunday's first contest against the Arizona Cardinals. As I've been saying, reach behind me, pat myself on the back here. As I've been saying to people for weeks, don't stress the injuries too much. The Bills always play the long game. They always make sure that they're doing right by making sure guys are ready for week one. Now, it's not ideal to have 5 guys on the injury report, but 3 of them are full participants. One is a backup quarterback who is limited, and he's trending in the right direction. It seems like only one player on the active roster did not practice, defensive end Javon Solomon, on Wednesday with an oblique injury. Otherwise, Matt, it's a pretty clean injury report.
Yeah, I really liked Javon Solomon over the course of the summer, but there was also a chance that he was going to be like an inactive game day guy, at least for the first couple months or couple weeks of the season. So his injury certainly stinks from a development standpoint, but I don't think it's a massive loss for specifically this game. To me, the 2 big ones, of course, are Curtis Samuel and MVS. I think having those guys potentially be available for Sunday is huge. I think that because they don't have a true number 1 receiver, they need to have as many options as humanly possible and guys that can do specific things. I think Curtis Samuel might actually lead the Bills in targets this year from a wide receiver. I think it's going to be Dalton Kincaid from a tight end standpoint and overall team. Curtis Samuel, I think, has got a good chance to get the most touches of anybody else. So that's why I think he's obviously very important. And MVS is not a player who I think the Bills are going to be counting on a ton. But if I were the Bills, and I think they will, I would be taking a couple shots at MVS every single game just to keep a defense on their toes, to make them think that, hey, we might beat you over the top. And even if it doesn't work very often, I still think that will give you a little bit of freedom to try and do stuff underneath and to attack the middle of the field. Just having somebody who can really take the top off. And that's what his skill set is going to be. So to me, first thing I noticed when I got out of practice yesterday was that those 2 receivers were there. And then obviously Cole Bishop is, that's another step in the right direction. I just don't exactly know how we'll see him on the field now that we know Damar Hamlin is going to start next to Taylor Rapp.
Right. So obviously having a healthy wide receiver core is going to be key, considering all the changes that were made and all the chemistry that needs to be built with that squad and the names that are there right now. But I go right to the safeties, because obviously the big news coming out of that position was Damar Hamlin and Cole Bishop being a full participant, but we knew he was kind of trending in that direction. Mike Edwards has been a full participant anyway over the last several weeks, but Damar Hamlin getting the start opposite Taylor Rapp. All right, so from a 2-pronged standpoint here, let's talk about Edwards and Bishop and where they stand and what kind of their trajectory is here. But really, Damar Hamlin stepping in the starting role here. Let's start with Hamlin, because that was big news coming from Sean McDermott. It could be because of the injuries, right? It could be because of the ramp-up time. We know that. But, man, I'll tell you, Matt, one thing that's happened, and I'm sure you've seen this, Bills fans, there wasn't a great reaction to that news, right? Damar Hamlin starting. Oh, my God, he's terrible. Did you see what he did in this game or that game? I think there's a way overreaction to this. I'm not telling you Damar Hamlin is Micah Hyde or Jordan Poyer in their prime. Not at all. But I think Damar Hamlin might know this defense better than anybody else other than Cam Lewis, who's playing that position. Mm-hmm. And Damar Hamlin, to me, has had a very steady and sound offseason. Yeah. And this comes down to one word: trust. Mm-hmm. Sean McDermott wants someone who he can trust on the back end to know exactly where to be, how to line people up, the communication that goes along with it. And when you're talking about week 1 with 2 new guys who have not been on the field that much during this offseason, that to me is why you get to Damar Hamlin.
I agree with everything you said, but it is still my biggest area of concern as we get ready for this game and really for the entire season. I think I said it a couple episodes ago. The safety position is bleak right now. I know that they've been getting healthier there, and Mike Edwards is starting to turn a corner, and Cole Bishop is making progress. And I think the long-term outlook for the position might be better than the short-term outlook, but I'm concerned about that position. I think the Damar Hamlin story is incredible, and what he has been able to accomplish is truly something out of a movie. To go through what he did in Cincinnati and then once again be starting in the NFL. Guess it's not a body double. Guess it's actually Damar Hamlin who's going to be out on the field playing. So I think it's a really cool story, but I am still very concerned about the safety position. I feel like that is a weakness for this team, even with Damar Hamlin earning that job over the course of the last month and a half.
I think that's completely fair. Listen, we saw him and who was on the field? Was it Cam Lewis maybe at the time? I couldn't remember, getting beat in Miami a couple of years ago on that deep ball to Jalen Waddle. We saw it in Buffalo in that snow game that same year a little bit later, because Damar had to step up and play. This was, I believe, even before what happened in Cincinnati.
It was, yeah.
I do want to make one thing clear here. This reminds me a bit of the Joe Andreessen kind of arc and story. You said it. What he's done, what he's accomplished just for him to be on the field is pretty remarkable. Matt, I just want to put to rest anything of they're doing this because of the Damar Hamlin story. No. I think you agree with me. That is not why Damar Hamlin's starting. it's a nice way to kind of be, try to give an insult, I guess, if you want, because you don't like him playing. Oh, they're just starting him because of the story. It's a great story, but we're past that. That's not why he's starting. He's starting because Sean McDermott trusts him. I agree with everything you said. The concern, no doubt, until you see it happen in a game. And you know what's going to happen? If Marvin Harrison Jr. goes over the top and Damar Hamlin's a little late getting there and he scores a touchdown, you're going to have everyone coming out saying, I told you so, I told you so. And they have every right to do that. There's no doubt about it. I'm not here telling you personally that Damar Hamlin's going to be an all-pro. That's not at all. I'm telling everybody why the Bills are choosing him to start, and I understand the reasons, even if it actually winds up turning out where maybe he's not the best player for it in the long run. When you say for the week and for the season, I think for the week with Damar Hamlin, there's a lot of wondering, and that's true. As the season goes on, I am much more confident in Mike Edwards and Cole Bishop getting healthier and playing and doing the job that they expect them to do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be writing off Damar Hamlin before he's even played, because he could have a great game and then he could still continue to earn the starting spot. But I do think that for me, when I heard the news that Damar Hamlin was playing, the first thing I thought was, I wonder how long it is until Mike Edwards is ready to eventually take that over. And the first guess for me was week 3. I was like, listen, you got a really short little condensed spot right here with this game on Sunday and then the Dolphins game coming up next Thursday. Then you got a little bit of extra time. Mike Edwards was banged up basically all summer, and so was Cole Bishop. So for those guys to not be ready right away to start is not an earth-shattering development. It's probably what was the most logical thing to happen, especially because of how much is put on that position in a Sean McDermott and now Bobby Babbitt defense. Damar Hamlin knows all that stuff. It's just a matter of, can he actually execute it out onto the field? I think he'll do fine, but I do think that there's guys with a higher ceiling, and I think that those guys will eventually be the ones on the field. And I'll say this, I didn't know how they're going to use Cole Bishop. I still think we're going to see him on the field in some capacity these first couple weeks. I think it's kind of trending towards he's got just as real of a shot of winning that as Mike Edwards does. I think for a long time, I thought it was like Mike Edwards and Taylor Rapp, and then you would use Cole Bishop as your guy in a dime package, or maybe you're going to use him in a bunch of other different ways. Like, I think there's a chance Cole Bishop wins that job in a couple weeks.
Okay, I'm going to tee you up here. You ready? I'm going to just put it right on a tee. You're a good golfer.
Yeah.
I'm putting it right on a tee for you. You're going to drive it straight 300 yards right down the middle. How bad would it have to go Sunday for the Bills to pick up the phone and get Micah Hyde in here in the next couple of weeks?
A loss. There, I'm telling
Any loss?
A loss where their safeties were a big concern. I legitimately, and I know this is the ongoing joke with the podcast and everything, I really do think he's coming back. I just think it's a matter of if, a matter of when, not a matter of if. I think Micah Hyde will be playing for the Buffalo Bills this year, because right now, and this is a problem, and this is why I think it's the biggest concern for me on the roster, even with all of the neck concerns, even with all of the injury history that Micah Hyde has had the last couple years, basically, of his career, I think he would right now be the best safety on the roster. So for me, that's why it's like, okay, what are we waiting for, guys? When are you going to go out and sign them? I think the Bills are very open to it. I think that they're just kind of waiting on Micah Hyde to get a firm answer, and maybe he has told them, I'm not playing a whole year. I'll come back halfway through or whatever it is. But if things are not looking good, I think Micah Hyde gets that call. We're a little bit a ways from that happening, I think. I think that there will have a longer runway with some of these younger guys and some of these guys who have not really proven that much yet. But yeah, I think Micah Hyde is going to play for this team. I mean, they haven't given out his number. There's a lot of reasons to think that he's coming back. I'll just say that.
I give it a shot that he's back on this team. I don't doubt it for 1 second. I just think it's not happening anytime soon. Even if it went, I think it would have to go really, really, really drastically wrong on Sunday for that to happen right away. Because I think the Bills, even if Damar Hamlin doesn't look good, they give up a couple big plays. I think the Bills then shift to, okay, we got to put Mike Edwards and Cole Bishop back there. And they're going to give those guys an opportunity. I do wonder too, and I've said this a couple times in the pod, and I'm wondering from you how much, because you mentioned it, the game on Thursday, 5 nights later, matters. Is it maybe possible that, hey, we just want to do some load management here, and that's when you're going to see more of Bishop and Edwards? Is actually that game instead of the third week, if that makes sense, because they don't want to have anything happen before a division game on the road 5 nights later.
Yeah, I mean, it's a totally reasonable thing. I know Sean McDermott, he was asked a question specifically about the Dolphins yesterday on Wednesday, and he poured cold water on it and was like, I'm not talking about that game. I'm focusing on Arizona, which I truly believe they are from a game plan standpoint. But I'm sure their trainers and their medical staff are saying, like, hey, Sean, like these guys, they're going to be able to play, but I don't know how ready they're going to be. They're going to be closer to being ready a couple days later. And then that's why, like, okay, well, then maybe they could have a bigger role in Miami. I think that this is a Damar, you're starting. We believe in you. It is your job to lose. And if things go okay to good, then he will continue to be doing that job until things take a turn. If they never take a turn, I think Damar is going to be there for a while. But if they aren't getting the level of play that they're anticipating, I think the first man off the bench would be Mike Edwards. And then I think the same thing could be said about Cole Bishop after that, where Mike Edwards will come in. And if he's doing a good job, they'll keep him there and they'll use Cole Bishop all over the place. And if things don't go well there, then Cole Bishop will come in. And that's all assuming Taylor Rapp is just healthy and ready to go and playing good football, because he's another factor here. It's not like, to me, Taylor Rapp's job is completely safe. This is not a situation where like this guy is absolutely, write it in permanent marker, the starting safety. I think he is for now, but I think that they could get more production or a better play out of somebody else. Maybe not this year, but certainly down the road.
One injury to kind of wrap up this segment on is Mitch Trubisky. Good news, he was limited. The Bills still will have to make a decision if he is healthy enough to be their backup quarterback on Sunday. They could elevate Mike White to be the backup quarterback. There's something to watch here over the weekend. All right. The other big bit of news for the Bills coming out of Wednesday's practice was right before practice, the captains. Okay, follow us on Twitter at Sal Sports, at Matt_Bove. We got all your coverage, WGR, WKBW TV, Channel 7 in Buffalo as well. 2 captains. Nobody had that on their bingo card, right? We saw 6 or 7 or 8 over the last few years. 2 captains for the Buffalo Bills named: Josh Allen on offense, Terrell Bernard on defense, and then there's going to be a 10-person leadership group / council for them to lean on. Okay, Matt, I think this is another clear indication of how they are and have been. This has been happening. This isn't like something that just happened yesterday or this week. This has been happening since April. Moving towards giving Josh Allen ownership of the leadership of this team. And I think this is calculated to say, you're the guy. This is not about Mitch Morris and Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis and Deion Dawkins and all these other captains on offense. You're the guy. You're the leader. This is not, oh my God, Josh Allen walks in. Gosh, guess what? You're the only captain. This has been building and leading to this particular point for me, that Josh Allen, you take ownership, but you know what? He's already known that, and it's been something they talked about for a while.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the way that I explained it yesterday when I posted our story on it, I said these are the moves that signify a youth movement happening in Orchard Park, because to me, Josh Allen is going to be the face of this franchise until he's not with the franchise or until he retires. And Terrell Bernard is basically going to just become what Tremaine Edmonds was a few years ago. I don't mean that from a player like exact skill standpoint. I just mean like it was very clear for a long time. Tremaine Edmonds was the guy on defense and Josh Allen was the guy on offense. And it was funny because they were kind of tied at the hip because they were both out of that 2018 draft class. I think for the next 5 years, Terrell Bernard is going to be the voice and the leader on that side of the ball. I think he's got the play and the talent to be able to back it up. I think he's got the personality where guys will follow him and he can lead by example. And offensively, of course, this team goes as Josh Allen goes. He is the face of the franchise. He's one of the best players in the entire league. And I think this will give him an even bigger platform inside of that locker room to lead and to hold people accountable. And I think the team, there's been a lot of stories and a lot of reporting about how they want him to be a little bit more of a leader and less of one of the guys. I think one of the things that makes Josh so relatable and likable in that locker room is his ability to just be one of the guys. I think there's a time and place for that. I think that can be most of the time, and that's what he does. But when things go wrong, I think he needs to be the first one to stand up and say, we are not meeting our standard. We need to hold each other accountable. And I think he will. I think Josh has grown into that as time has gone on. And I think he's ready for that. You could make the argument, why didn't this happen years ago? And I think that that's a fair argument. But, I think Josh is he's a guy. Like he doesn't want to be the one who has to call people out. He thinks that maybe that needs to be a joint effort. And now I think he's going to be in that position.
Yeah. And let's be clear. I mean, like, he has been a captain since 2019, since his second season.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like this has been thrust upon him. And when you say like, there's there an argument of this could have happened years ago. Well, Josh has been a captain for the last several years, but look, he walked into a situation where you had Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer and a guy like, I don't know, Tolbert and DeMarco and guys that, have been in the league and put some skins on the wall. And then as he's here, you get John Brown and Cole Beasley, and then Stephon Diggs comes along and Mitch Morse, obviously. So he's never it's always been guys that he's never had to be that guy. But then they're all gone now. They're just all gone. And pretty much at once, bam, see you later. All these guys, all this leadership walks out the door. But there's Josh Allen. And it's not going to be Deion Dawkins. It's not going to be Connor McGovern. It's going to be you. You're the guy. But I think even from his own words, going back to April, I remember talking about this in April. I remember thinking and saying on this podcast, on the radio, boy, there's been a lot of talk about Josh's leadership. This is back in April. From him, from Sean McDermott, from Brandon Beane, it's always been something that seemed like a concerted effort to say, like, I'm going to be the guy and he's going to be the guy that's going to be looked at as our leader. And on top of that, Matt, they bring in all these new faces at wide receiver. Guys who are walking into One Bills Drive wide-eyed like, man, I have Josh Allen throwing me the stinking football. This is amazing. And I think that goes along with it, which is they're already looking up to him as this elite player and leader that they want to be great for.
I think if you're going to be one of these leaders, I think oftentimes, I don't think you have to be the best player to be a leader. And I think there's a lot of different ways that you can lead. But I do think that you got to be able to back it up. And I think that they have a lot of faith that Josh will be able to back it up, especially offensively. And Terrell will be able to back it up on the defensive side of things. And that's, to me, like, these are the guys who you're going to live and die with. They're going to be reliable, both on and off the field. They lead by example. And I think that both of them check a lot of boxes. It was a surprise that they only went with two, but since digesting it in the last 24 hours, I think it makes a lot of sense. I think that this is kind of what should be more normal than having all of these different leaders. No disrespect to leaders in the past or captains in the past, but it feels really ridiculous that you need to have 8 captains on a football team. I get it's a bigger team than, a lot of other sports, but there's not a lot of other sports where you got like the 10-person leadership council, like, is kind of a ridiculous concept to me. I get it. And I get why it's there, but I just think that having a couple guys is totally normal and fine.
All right. The weather all week is beautiful in New York.
This is literally what I was looking while you were just doing your little like soliloquy there. I was on weather.com.
Okay.
And then I went to WKBW.com.
Yes, of course. That's what you should do. Hey, listen, I've been told and I have been trained. I go to weather.com a lot, but that's more of like computer models. When you go to WKBW and look at their weather, that's human beings putting that in pretty much.
Well, let me tell you. So I'm assuming you were going to talk about the rain, right?
No, I wasn't. I was going to say it's looking a lot better, but it's still going to be a lot cooler. Like, it's going to be, what I was going to say is this, I'll say it. It's going to be like 80 all week in Buffalo. Then suddenly Saturday, bam, storm, rain. Sunday, rain should be moving out by then, but it's going to be like 62 degrees and breezy, which is like 20 degrees drop in temperature from 48 hours earlier.
But it's also perfect weather to be going to a football game.
I think so too.
Perfect weather. So I think if I was going like tailgate time, you wake up, there's that cool, like, brisk air that you wake up to. You get your setup in the grass lot, you're getting after it a little bit, and then you've got your hoodie on. You could maybe just go like hoodie and jeans with the jersey or whatever you really feel comfortable with. But what I was going to say is that I went and I checked weather.com, 19% chance of rain in Orchard Park. Good numbers. Then I went to WKBW.com, 4% chance of rain in Orchard Park. For Sunday. So I think that we will miss the rain. I think it's going to rain maybe overnight and then early morning. But I think by the time you are getting to the stadium, you should be dry. There's going to be a bit of wind. Like, it feels like it's like a kind of 15 to 20 mile an hour winds. I don't think that those are sustained. I think that those are gusts. Not a meteorologist, clearly, but I think it's going to be a pretty nice day in Orchard Park, which is good because the home opener is legitimately a top 5 day in Western New York. And if you want to make the argument it's the number 1 day in Western New York, I will listen to that argument.
I love it. I love the home opener. The only thing I don't like is it's gonna be a little bit breezy. I don't love the wind for games. The wind can be really tough. I want to see like kind of a clean game, both sides, no wind. I want to see like dome conditions outside. I know I'm asking for a lot, right?
I
That's what
was gonna say. Sounds like you're asking for a dome, and I think we're a little past that point.
All right, let's look at week number 1. Thursday night it starts. Unless you got something real quick on the Bills, anything else you want to kind of anything we didn't touch on as we lead? Because this is the last time we're going to talk before the game.
No, I mean just generally, you think they win? You like their chances this week?
I do. This is great. So I do. The Bills are a 6-point favorite. It's one of the higher teams on the board, and they should be
second biggest favorite of the week behind Cincinnati against New England.
What is San Fran? I think San Fran might be also a 6. Is it 5.5 or is it 6 against the Jets? They're right there as well.
I think it was like 4.5.
Okay,
something.
All right. Either way, it's one of the bigger favorites on the board, maybe second biggest, and they should be. You have a West Coast team coming east, playing a 1:00 Sunday game. A team that won. How many games the Cardinals win last year? 4.
I think 5. I think.
I mean, they had a couple big wins towards the end of the year, though. I think they beat Pittsburgh in the rain. They went to Philly and won, if I remember correctly.
The line as of right now is 6.5. So the Bills it's been teetering on that really the entire week. The Bengals are 8-point favorites against the Patriots, and then in that Monday night game, it's 4.5. 4.5. The 49ers are favored.
Okay. Well, I think that the Bills should take care of business here, and if they don't, I think a full-on kind of panic mode of, wait a minute, Arizona week 1, because look at the schedule after that. The next 5 games are such a gauntlet. Matt, you got to start off with a win here. It's your home opener. You just talked about it. One of the best days in Western New York. It's the home opener. The Bills are, a team that should be better than this team they're playing. They're coming in. I do like the Bills' chances a lot. They should take care of business. And if they don't, I think we got a lot of questions, and we could be looking at what's going to happen this season.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. They better win this game. But the one thing I will say, if they don't win this game, there are absolutely reasons to be concerned. But it's kind of been a thing that they've done in years past where they don't always win the week 1 game, even against opponents that they should definitely win. Last year, they lost week 1 to Zach Wilson and the Jets after Aaron Rodgers played just 4 games, and things felt very, very
4 plays.
Yeah. 4 plays. That's what I mean. The year before that, 2 years ago, also at home, they lose after the 13-second year to the Steelers. Or was that after the AFC Championship year? Whatever it was. They lose week 1 to the Steelers, who at that point in their time were not very good. The Bills were a big favorite in that game, and they lose. So if they do lose, you can, angrily call into WGR and yell and say that this team is a fraud and that they need to do some changes. I'll just say, and this is coming from the guy who's kind of pretty negative, like, be patient. It is a 17-game season. They better win. They should win. But if they don't, it's not like the entire season is a lost cause.
All right. So real quick, just like 2 games I want to touch on week number 1 that are important. And before I do that, though, I want to remind everybody, if you can, I don't think we have the ability to do it here necessarily in the pod, but what I want to do is we wanted to set up a Cardinals guest, but hey, when you're East Coast and they're West Coast, you don't want to wake people up at really, really early hours. So I'd like everybody, right? So I'd like everybody to do is, here's just a public service message to help out here. I host the Extra Point Show every day on WGR 10 to 12, but when I'm covering practice, the great guys, Zach Jones and Josh Schmidt host, and they had Tyler Drake of Arizona Sports on Wednesday. So I'm just going to invite everybody to go to the WGR app, the Odyssey app, check it out. It's on demand in the Extra Point Show section, and that's a really good preview to hear what the Arizona Cardinals are going to bring to the table when they come to Buffalo. So I don't think we have the ability here to put it on the pod, but what I'll do is just invite everybody to go do that. So I think that would be a good way to kind of get more familiar with the Arizona Cardinals. All right, real quick. Packers Eagles in Brazil. We touched on the Thursday night game last pod. Packers Eagles in Brazil, first time ever. Are you dialed into that? Are you like, oh my, I want to see what this is like? More for the game, more for the ambiance in Brazil, or anything at all?
I'm a sicko. Oh my gosh, I will watch football. Every single time that it is on, at least the NFL. So I am very ready to watch football on Thursday night, on Friday night, on Sunday after I get home from work, on Monday night, and then again 3 days later on Thursday night. Like, I will be watching as much as humanly possible. A lot of that to me is tied to fantasy, though. Like, specifically in the league that I really, really, really care about. I'm going against Jordan Love. I'm going against AJ Brown. So it's like, okay, you're going to watch that game and you're going to be rooting against your guys who are going in fantasy, not even really rooting for teams specifically. So yeah, I will absolutely be watching.
All right. And then the Bills' next two opponents do play the Jags and the Dolphins at the same time as the Bills. That's going to be an interesting one. That's in Miami. The Bills take on the Dolphins 5 days later. Then they have the Jags on Monday Night Football coming to Buffalo. Any thought on that game quickly here?
No, not really. I think that Miami's going to start the season strong because I think that they were just very explosive. So I could see them winning that game. And then, yeah, I just think that, I think if the Bills win, it will this weekend. I think it will make things, at least the vibes, very high for at least the next couple weeks, regardless of what happens in Miami. Like I definitely know that everybody thinks that they need to beat Miami and that they should beat Miami and that it's a very important game. I hear all of that. But if you win Arizona and then you go on the road and lose in a short week to a division team that's also pretty good, I don't think there's panic. I think there's concern. I think if they lose to the Cardinals, a lot of people will be panicking, and then that Miami game will feel like an absolute must win. So that's why it's like, take care of your business this week, and then that gives you at least a couple more weeks to get your feet under you. And then you, once again, come home against the Jags at home, Monday Night Football. Like that's a team you should beat at home. And then, you can kind of really get things going. So yeah, this first weekend for the Bills is very important.
As long as the Bills go 2-1, I think in their first three, even if it's a loss to Miami, I think you can live with that. All right. And then finally, after the Bills game, you and I, we're doing our post-game stuff. And then it's the debut of Tom Brady on Fox calling the Cowboys
is it?
Browns game. Yes.
I didn't even realize that. No.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's exciting because that'll be, hopefully on when we get home from the stadium on Sunday night.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's fascinating, this whole thing with Brady being an owner. And, you hear you saw the news about the fact that, because he's an owner of the Raiders, or if he becomes an owner, whatever it's official now, that means he can't go into these production meetings for TV before the games. He can't go to the practices. And eventually, Matt, I think he's just going to have to decide which one he wants to do.
Yeah, which will probably be not broadcasting because I'm sure
Right.
there's probably a greater return on investment from partially owning an NFL franchise. But they pay him a ton of money at Fox, and it's probably a lot easier. So maybe that's what he'll stick with.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, it's back, buddy. Here we go. We have
give me your prediction. I know you said you think they're going to win. Give me a score.
Give you a score. I'll say Bills 24, Cardinals 16.
Okay.
I like weird scores sometimes in football because 2-point conversions these days, things like that. I'll say 24-16, Bills cover. They win by 8.
I'll go Bills 26, Cardinals 23. They do not cover, but they win.
Okay. All right. Well, enjoy the game on Sunday. Matt and I will be back. Thanks for tuning in. Once again, head to the WGR/Odyssey app. Get your on-demand Extra Point show to hear Zach Jones and Josh Schmidt with Tyler Drake of Arizona Sports. We'll have a Cardinals preview for you as a supplement to It's Always Game Day in Buffalo. Thanks to our producer, Mike Robier, as usual.